the biggest stars on the planet jammed into Studio 8H in 30 Rock on Sunday night for the SNL 50 Live celebration. Iconic cast members and guest hosts took to the stage for some classic sketches like Black Jeopardy.
Speaking of church, can I say something? If more folks went to church, we wouldn't be in this mess we're in now.
You know what? I agree with you, Doug. I'd like to shake your hand, sir. Here we go.
No,
Oh, no.
like that.
Oh, no, it's just a handshake. Yeah, it's just a handshake. Yeah, all right. You're welcome at Black Jeopardy anytime.
All right. Well, thank you, my brother. Maybe I'll start a show for you to come on, and we'll call it White Jeopardy.
No, we don't need it.
Now, some conservative viewers were not laughing at that part. They thought, I guess they thought this was new, there was a new addition, but this is a callback. He's been on several times in this character.
But the fact remains that they're making anyone who voted for Trump look like a racist, and that's why they're mad.
Well, my biggest issue was
and I personally would never do that, because I don't believe that any group is one thing. A lot of these people, in my opinion, have been misled. They thought that grocery prices would come down. They're up. They thought inflation was coming down. It's up. They thought that Medicaid was safe. It's not. They thought Social Security was safe. It's not. So it's not only racism that caused Trump to be in office. We have to remember that. So of course they're going to be insulted. We were insulted by Bill O'Reilly when he had a broad stroke on Muslims in the same way. It's the same thing. And if they can do it to them, they can do it to us.
I have a different take, though. I have a different take on that. Just because, as Whippy said, Tom Hanks joined the sketch, bringing back the character of Doug, because the first Doug was in a 2016 sketch, and in fact, that was the most popular installment of Black Jeopardy, was with Doug as the Trump supporter in 2016. I think it's a very subversive sketch, in fact. It's about Black culture being American culture. And so when you have the regular Jeopardy, you know, it's basically the White Jeopardy. That already exists, because I've been on it and lost.
And never lets us forget it.
And so this you know, in 2018, you had Chadwick Boseman on, and the fact that he refused to shake the host's hand, that has happened before. Do you remember when the senator refused, the senator's husband that was being...
refused to shake Kamala Harris.
Sworn in, he refused to shake her hand. So I felt that it was very subversive. I felt that it was a sort of a callback to that.
Can I just do a less profound thing? If you watch the sketch, Eddie Murphy did Tracy Morgan better than Tracy Morgan. Just Tracy Morgan. That was all in that sketch. And my problem with it was when it went from that pinnacle of hilarity when I was rolling on the ground, it was just the Tom Hanks part died a little. So it was more like as a high critic of comedy and a consumer, I was like, oh, end with Eddie Murphy. Like, it was so brilliant.
See, I loved it ending with Tom Hanks. So it appealed to us in different ways.
I thought we were talking about our favorite moments from SNL 50. I did not prepare properly for this.
That was my favorite moment.
Okay. The skit was a callback. I remember the original. I thought the original was funnier, just to be honest, but I personally think the outrage over it is a little overblown. I would like to play my favorite clip, though, from the entirety of the SNL weekend that we had. Clip.
What do you think is the biggest obstacle facing young comedians today?
The same obstacle that's been facing comedians forever, being funny. You know, sometimes you're funny and sometimes you're not.
Said to me a dozen times, because it's like being funny. It was just perfect. I had so much fun watching. I watched it in the millennial chaotic way of watching clips and not watching it in linear fashion. But from Tina Fey and Amy Poehler doing the Q&A to some of just the classic roles reprised, I feel like this was the comedy we needed. But then also the in memoriam of the sketches that just did not age well was perfect.
Yeah. Well, just to continue on my point.
Back.
Because I do believe that politics is a big part of Saturday Night Live for the past 50 years.
Absolutely.
And when it's done correctly, it's very effective. For instance, Steve Martin's monologue was very effective.
It was very effective.
I was actually vacation on a friend's boat down in the Gulf of Steve Martin, he said. That makes the point that Trump wants to change names just because he's the president. He can do whatever he wants. You know, he said, well, that was not so interesting. And then he had Martin Short come in, who's a Canadian, and then ICE arrested him.
Yeah.
I mean, those are political points that don't insult individual people.
And they're subversive. They're more subversive.
You know, look, the show has always done exactly what they wanted to do the way they wanted to do it, and it was no different this time, and it was good fun. SNL 50 also took the time to own up to some sketches that did not stand the test of time. Take a look.
We must also take a moment to honor those who we've lost. I'm speaking, of course, about SNL characters and sketches that have aged horribly.
Won't you tell me my business? I don't want to.
NAFTA helps us both. It will give me a job. Your job.
Jane, you ignorant slut. Black trash. Jungle bunny. Hunky. Hunky. Dead hunky.
And when you look back at some of the sketches, you know, you realize that you've lived through all these changes in our times. Because there were times you could get away with saying stuff that you really can't say now. And there were times when people said, you know what, let's not do this, let's do that. And people said, well, that's all right, too. It's like what you're talking about, you know, what do you think? When you, well, none of, except you and I can really have this
We remember it, we're old.
Well, the ones
None of you.
But you keep
some
on
of the
saying
clips
that comedy is under attack and that you can't do some of the things that you used to be able to do.
That's what we just said.
To some extent, it's under attack very much. They call it wokeism, you know, and people turn and use that against the Democrats, which is one of the reasons.
But that's not comedy. That's politics.
Yeah, but people do get upset when you, like in the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's is a perfect example of this, if you've ever seen it.
Yeah.
Mickey Rooney plays a Japanese in such an offensive way that people who are Japanese and other people are insulted by it.
Well, white people were insulted by it because they said, no one we know looks or sounds like this.
Yeah.
And once white people say, wait a minute, then you know someone's paying attention. That's why it's so annoying, when people talk about wokeism. Because, you know, for years, women decided, I don't like how you talk about us. And so we got out and we did something about it. That was wokeism at its time. People didn't want us doing that. When we said, hey, we got to put more people of color, more folks who are different into colleges. They said, well, we don't want that either.
Yeah.
That was considered wokeism. So it's all of these things that seem to benefit other people seem to be problematic because you're woke. Well, most of us, most women have never been asleep because we know what we're fighting.
Well,
most people, men,
Don't you think, what I think that could have been a better way to deal with all of that is to show both sides of it. I mean, personally.
Where are we?
In the whole business of stereotyping.
Oh, okay.
When I'm thinking, like, for instance, when I was a kid, I grew up in a neighborhood with Italian Americans, and on the other side of the bridge there were the Polish kids. And the Polish kids used to tease the Italian kids about they were in the mob and they were this. And I used to say, wait, let me get my Renaissance files out. Okay? Because there are two sides to being Italian. You want to talk about the mob? Talk about Da Vinci. You want to talk about murders in Chicago? Talk about Michelangelo.
Well,
so it's the same with every other group.
No, it's not.
Why
it is
not?
Because we don't get the benefit of all the. That's why we have Black History Month.
But it should be.
What it should be, but it's not. But none of this has anything to do with what I was talking about.
You're talking about the very definition of woke, which is the awareness of social injustice.
That's been we were talking about Saturday Night Live.
Well, that brings us back to Saturday Night Live because, you know, they get accused of doing stuff when they're just a reflection of what's been going on in the world. But there's more to
owning it.
Yeah, just because I like saying this because I was in a room with a whole bunch of amazing people that I wanted to meet, I was there at the 60th, and I was having a good time, and that's what it looked like. That's me and my friends and all kinds of. Well, yeah, look at Gary. You know, and Jason. Yes, it is.
That's nice, Whoopi.
So I just wanted to show off a little bit.